Pat, I have a
That was
question.
good, Rob.
I have a question. There's the chat area. Is somebody
Yes.
going to manage that?
I will manage it.
Okay.
And we are going to start in, yes, Dr. Pat, we are live now.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our what is our speakers series class. And we have a few of our students on here with us today. But we also, it's a very special day for us, and we have our panel that's made up of our advisory board. We do this every semester where we have our advisory board members who are available that day to join in a panel discussion of kind of events and of what's going on in their businesses. And of course, today is, there's a lot of material to discuss today. As we've done for the past few semesters, we've asked Elliot Falcione. Elliot, wave. Where are you, Elliot? There you are, okay.
As soon as you speak, Elliot, your video will come on for everyone.
To moderate the panel. And what we're going to do, as we do every week in this class, we have the students in advance to research on the background of the speaker. But of course, we have many speakers this week. So I divided the speakers up among the students. I divided it by the speakers who had not been in our class this semester. Some of you have been other semesters, but those who had not been this semester, they did the research and questions for. And Elliot has those questions. But we also have many other speakers here today who were here this semester and for whom we have not written questions. So for students, and so that's Cole and Jordan and Juan, if you all, and there'll be others coming on in a minute, I'm sure, if you all could participate, excuse me, and ask questions for the folks for whom Elliot doesn't have a specific question, that'd be great, because I think they all have a lot to offer, and we'll help you with that. Finally, Elliot is going to take over, and I don't know if all of you heard this. The students know it every week. This is being recorded, and this week it's not only being recorded, it's being live cast on Facebook and YouTube, and it will be available on YouTube for all of you panel members, board members who have an ego and want to give autographs out to your audiences afterwards. I'm sure we can arrange for that. Elliot, I'm going to turn it over to you now to start the program for us.
Well, welcome everybody. I would say, Michael Klobber, you have the best background lighting out of all of us. So, yes, you must be an Ivy League grad.
And Elliot, I forgot to do one thing before we continue. I always do it because I'm not in the room. I forgot it. So I don't know if you all see the screen the same way I do. I don't think we all do. It looks like Hollywood Squares. But I'm going to start on my screen just in the order I see people to introduce them. And so just raise your hand when I introduce you so everybody knows who you are. I'm going to start with Jiten Patel. And Jay is the owner and operator of the Holiday Inn Airport. And he's, did you wave, Jay?
Yes, this is Jiten.
Okay. And then next to him is Virginia Haley. And Virginia is the head of Visit Sarasota, which is the CVB basically for Sarasota City and County. Next to Virginia is Ken Edwards. Ken is, and these are all on our board of advisors, and Ken is the owner and operator of TriStar Hotels and HM Books Online. Next is John Horn. John is the infamous owner of Anna Maria Oyster Bar and operator of same. Then we have down here Richard Weil. Richard, there you go. Richard has had a checkered career doing many things. He was in food service supply for many, many years in big companies. And now he's a very active consultant in Colorado, but really all over the country. So welcome, Richard. Next to him is Michael Klauber. Michael, you there? Yep. And Michael is the owner-operator, one of the owner-operators of Klauber's Michael's on East, but they also have a big catering company, and he's very heavily involved in Sarah Bay, too. Charles Gifler next to him. Wave, Charles. For years was associated with the Hyatt Hotel here in Sarasota and still has an association and is a developer and has 2 projects under construction right now. Great time to be under construction, I guess. Down here is Rob Grimes. Rob is coming in from, where are you, Rob? Virginia, Maryland, something like that?
Maryland.
Maryland. And Rob is a technology guru that I've known since I was at Penn State for years and years. And Rob just made the comment to please let the techie people handle the technology. So he puts me in Jihan's hands, you know. Katie, we can't see Katie, but I'm sure it's Katie Moulton, even though the last name isn't on there. Katie is the head of Cayuga Hospitality Consultants, Cornell University's informal consulting company. You there, Katie?
I am here,
Okay. Did I get your title right, Katie?
pretty much.
Okay, good.
Executive director and partner in the consulting group. We're 40 consultants around the globe.
There you go. Next
And
to
my
Kate
baby
is
sister.
Paul Madison. Paul Madison is the owner of Madison's Restaurants in Sarasota and in Bradenton. And Paul is there by sound. Say hi, Paul.
Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Hi, Paul.
And Rick Benninghove. Rick Benninghove is the CEO, General Manager of Longboat Key Club Hotel and Properties. Rick, can you hear us?
I can. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all.
Okay. And Gil Reyes. Gil is the General Manager of the Westin Hotel in Sarasota. Hi, Gil.
Hey, everyone. How are you?
And Gil, you probably have two speakers going at one time there. Jason Pabst is an alum, or fairly recent alum, and is the front office manager at the Lido Beach Hotel and our newest board member. Did I miss any board members? Have I missed anybody? Okay. And of course, the infamous Elliot Falcione, who is the head of the Bradenton CVB and Manatee County's Tourism Development Commission. Okay, Elliot, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Pat. As the students know, there's a lot of the professors viewing this as well, so they can chime in as seen fit. We have about 15 panelists today, so we're going to try to show everybody a little bit of love, get some feedback from everybody. But I ask these dynamic panelists to try to keep your answers hopefully up to 2 minutes. And because we may feed off of a topic and ask multiple people for some feedback based on what it is. But with that, I'm going to start with my colleague to the south, Virginia Haley. And Virginia, it's great to see you in these tough times. You have a crisis management plan, like most destination marketing organizations. You know, number one, how valuable is that to a community for a leader like you, a destination marketing organization like you, have that crisis management plan? And how do you gauge when people are ready to travel when the country, the world is back open for business?
Thanks, Elliot. It's good to see you, at least virtually. And yes, we absolutely have a crisis management plan. We've used it for a wide variety of things over the years. And look at all the fun we've had with the Deepwater oil spill, Zika, flesh-eating bacteria, hurricanes, 9/11. And none of them are quite to the level that we're dealing with now. But the basics of that plan, the chain of command, the absolute importance of communicating, if anything, over communicating, the bones of that plan are what really get you through this kind of thing. And it's a plan that every year you're practicing. So we practice internally with Visit Sarasota. And actually, it's been about 8 years. Sarasota County had a pandemic exercise. I don't know if that was a statewide one, Elliot. I do remember going through it and thinking, I don't see how tourism does anything but shut down in a case like this. And that wound up being true. In terms of recovery, making sure we're heeding the experts first and foremost. You don't want to go into recovery if your public health and your county and state government is still saying, don't do it. Believe it or not, there are organizations who have done it in the past and have ruined their reputations by jumping the gun. So first you wait for the all clear from the governments. And then really what we're doing is going in a multi-step process. And the first is looking very close to home, not spending very much money, but just testing that consumer sentiment. Are they willing to travel? We look for behaviors rather than area or age. So we're looking at behaviors of the first people to venture out and maybe buy a ticket to a performance. Or other behaviors that indicate they might be willing to travel, and serve a message to them. And from there it grows, but you really need to look at things like consumer sentiment. We are discretionary spending, and I think people's wallets are going to be very tight. So all of those factors will go into those initial steps of reaching out and getting our industry back.
Thanks, Virginia. Mr. John Horn, nice shirt, Clemson grad. Are you there, John?
Play the part for sure.
Yes. John, you've been a longtime member of Florida Restaurant Lodging Association. We know regionally FRLA covers Manatee and Sarasota. How valuable is it being a part of an organization like that, especially times like this?
You know, I think it's invaluable, Elliot. I was, because of my relationship with the FRLA, I was asked to be on a town hall phone conversation with Senator Rick Scott yesterday. He was reaching out to Manatee County for, I think, 8 people from Manatee County, and it was an hour, and he just kind of a roundtable. Everybody got to give their, here's what we're seeing, here's what we think we're going to have to do when we get back. And his suggestion was the association should come up with their own game plan, because we were asking, what do we do when we open up? Do we go back to 50% capacity in the restaurants? Do we have social distancing still? Will there be more carryout? And he said, each industry needs to formulate their own plan for when you come back. It's better to send it to the government. Here's what the hospitality industry will do. And so I've reached out to Carol Dover, the president of the FRLA, CEO, and said, we need to form 3 committees. We need a bar committee, a restaurant, and a hotel committee. And all of us come up with, how do we want to open back up if we're allowed at 50% or whatever, because no one has a game plan. We've never been through this. So I think the association and being connected with the association just will help that tremendously. But it's going to be tough for a lot. I was talking to John Saputo yesterday, and he said he's already heard from 55 bar owners that they're throwing the towel in. They're not even going to come back from it. So there's going to be a hell of a fallback on this. How many can survive something like this? So I mean, when he said 50, one of the things was 20 to 40% will fall off during this pandemic. And he said he's already had 55 in Manatee and Sarasota counties alone that said they're not coming back. It's going to be tough. But having the association, having, people that you can rely on, nobody's got an answer, but if we all work together, we'll get through it.
Michael Klauber, original member of the Originals group. You've always believed in it. It's been a nice fraternity for the restaurants, the food and beverage service. What does it mean today? I know you got some initiatives going on to try to feed the restaurants that are in dire need, delivery, takeout. How important is the Originals today?
Well, John just started to touch on it, but for a lot of the restaurants, we're 60 restaurants from tip of Anna Maria Island all the way down to Venice Pass. And they're very diverse, from, fine dining to breakfast mom and pops. So it's really been incredibly challenging to try and help all the individual restaurants sorting through the PPP plan, being able to give them advice or recommendations on resources. Because for a lot of them, it's super challenging. A lot of the employees are struggling in our state to be able to even get their unemployment processed. So as the Originals organization, we are very, very busy and starting to think about, John just touched on it, trying to develop something for best practices for reopening. And I think we're all hoping that between your organization and Virginia, and our Visit Sarasota, that there's funding to be able to put out there to help Florida and our region recover. So we're super busy right now. I think I feel pretty lucky that we were able to flip the switch from serving in the restaurant to takeout and delivery. And it's got 10 of our staff working full time. We're hoping to close on our PPP loan and bring back 60 or 70 more next week, whether they're working or not, I guess. But so yeah, just, I don't think I've ever been busier than I am right now.
Well, Michael and John, Virginia and I totally agree. We all need to be communicating consistently. Michael, you've given me a heads up on some initiatives that I wasn't aware of. So thank you. And just work with each other and leverage partnerships. With that, Charles, you've been a Sarasota businessman for years. To the students, how important is it for leaders to be leaders now and put aside arrogance and a selfish mindset and do things for the greater good of the community? And at the same time, we have to, worry about ourselves individually, but how important is leaders being leaders, especially in times like this?
Well, thank you, Elliot. These are the times that trust men's souls, trust men and women's steel tested, and we're going to look back on this period like we might remember our grandparents or great grandparents talking about the Great Depression, because as Virginia said, nothing that we've done in the past prepares us for what's happening today. And I couldn't be more pleased, though, to be aware of and friends with most of everyone that's on this call. Very proud of this group. Leadership is the key, but if you're a student and you're going into the business now, you're learning how to swim by jumping into the deep end with some cinder blocks tied to your ankles. But I have a feeling that most of the students that go to this great institution are up for the job, and it's going to be exciting. There's going to be a lot of challenges, and yet there is no debate about the extraordinary and enviable long-term and maybe even intermediate-term demographics for the Sarasota area, for the state of Florida, and for our industry. It's just that in the short term, someone was just asking me today, I'm on another board call later today, and we produce a Financial Advisor magazine, and we're planning our conferences for next year. And they said, Charles, you're the conference guy. What do we do about conferences? And it's going to be very challenging. It's going to be very interesting to see how we get people to physically attend conferences, because this video conferencing only goes so far. And I only raise that point because it has so much to do with the growth area of hospitality, even in our region, where you've got a beach hotel that's building close to 30,000 square feet of meeting space. We've got one in on Longboat Key that's going to build quite a bit of meeting space, and downtown, all the new hotels pushed it as far as they could. So where are those conferences going to come back? When? And we need the vaccine, we need the testing, but there again, if you're coming out of school right now, I mean, it's a very exciting period, because within certainly 12 months, things should be, coming back to normal. Some people think we won't be shaking hands, though, Elliot. I don't know what your view is on that.
I don't know. We Italians like to give hugs, so.
Huggers. We're huggers.
Yeah. Thanks, Charles. Ken Edwards, live from the Valley of the Sun. It's great to see you, sir, finishing up your master's degree with USF. Dr. Pat said you're not on academic probation, so great job on the studies. With your business, owning, managing multiple hotels, we're just coming on the tail end of a hotel boom. Ken, what's going to happen here? Are we going to see a lot of hotels go through foreclosure? How are they going to weather this storm? Or is there just an unknown out there at this point?
Yeah. You know, Dr. Pat and I have talked about this a couple times. The only thing that really brings back the hotel industry is when they figure out the airline solution. Until they can solve that problem, the hotel industry will continue to be sluggish and lag as a business as compared to the other hospitality businesses, perhaps restaurants and so on and so forth. So very simply, as soon as somehow they figure out the airline travel, business will come back as it was. And once that occurs, then we'll be fine. The question is, you know, who's going to get on an airplane? I know that when we all break for our 15-minute break, ask yourself that question. When are you going to get on an airplane?
Katie Moulton,
Could I just have one quick follow-up?
Yes, sir.
Ken, just for a second. Ken, I had a note here written to myself in case we don't get back to you soon. But what about from a small hotel perspective? Your places are 80, 90, 100, 150, 200 rooms. What? Oh, 200 is not small, but I mean, how do you compare that to some of the big properties you've been chatting about?
It's all relevant in the sense that, you know, in February, all of my hotels, which were 10 that I own and 22 that I manage, were running between 70 and 90% occupancy and ran that occupancy for all of 2019. Every hotel is in single digits. When I say single digit, not occupancy, but room 8, 9, 10, 7, every one of them in Dallas, Texas, and Indianapolis, and San Jose, California, and Phoenix, Arizona. And I speak to all my friends, they say exactly the same thing. So, you know, the larger hotels, the difference really is like when I bleed about $10,000 a month right now. If you're a large hotel, it can be probably close to $500,000 a month or maybe even greater. So if you're asking what is the difference between a 150 room hotel and perhaps a resort in Sarasota is how much money you lose when you have no revenue.
Thank you, Ken. And thank you for letting me interrupt, Elliot.
Sure.
You're welcome, Dr. Pat. Katie Moulton, being a consultant, what kind of calls are you getting? You have an entrepreneurial background. Times like this, should you have some contingencies in your back pocket, even though something like this may run out pretty fast? What are your thoughts based on the kind of feedback you're getting from some of your clients?
Thank you. So we expected the funnel of consulting assignments to dry up the way you would expect every business to go. But instead, what's happened is a lot of the hoteliers paired their staff so much that now they're looking at situations, financial issues, they're uncovering fraud situations that they didn't know they had because now the entire accounting staff is gone. And there are some properties that are continuing their development. They need some help with managing their capital. You know, the capital that they had planned was going to go towards one thing. Now they realize that they've got other properties they might need to use some of that for. It's really interesting, the kind of calls that we're getting. We are also expecting a lot of task force work coming up over the next 6 months as the properties ramp back up before they're able to put teams together. So because our consultants are all over the world basically and covering so many different areas of expertise, we think consulting is actually going to do well for at least the short term while the hotels get ramped back up. But unfortunately, not everybody is in an area where they can repurpose their hotels. And there's been an awful lot of that, as you all have been reading. So many of the properties are moving towards housing first responders, non-COVID patients out of the hospitals, homeless. You know, some people are just doing whatever they can to put heads in beds. So none of us have ever been down this road before. Most of us have been involved in previous recessions, but nothing that ever looked quite like this.
Thanks, Katie. Gil, the West End, I still look at that as a new property, beautiful property. What are you telling your employees during times like this? And Any opportunities that you're working on just to kind of keep some kind of revenue stream? A little bit, maybe what Katie had mentioned.
So first of all, thanks for having me. The biggest thing that we just need to keep everyone positive, and things, although things are really tough now, the sun will rise again, and making sure that the team understands that and that culture is still at our hotel with regards to keeping everyone positive and understanding that it's going to get better. With regards to other opportunities, we have takeout, and we put together several different menu items because we're fortunate to be in downtown. So we have several condos that are around us. So we're marketing our to-go menu. We're actually doing because Weston is a wellness brand. So we put together a 500-calorie bowl in which it's pre-prepared. They could take it home and reheat it, and we can deliver it from our end. So we're doing a lot of little different things like that. We've also opened up the employee rate, and a lot of people have been able to use it, like team members from throughout the state that just want to get away out of the house. Working with the local airlines and the airport at Sarasota, working with them to make sure that they understand that we have rooms available for them. So we do have to reinvent ourselves at the property, and the team is excited. I've got sales managers cleaning rooms. We've got our director of finance checking people in. We're a full service hotel, so a little bit different with regards to job responsibilities, but everyone has been all in, and everyone's very appreciative that we're still open.
Gil, I guess this is an opportunity for all of us to build a little bit of character.
Absolutely.
Like this. I'm going to try to lighten this up a little bit. Paul Madison, one of the students asked the question, what food inspires you the most, and how are you handling the pandemic right now at Madison's?
What was the first question, Elliot? What food, what?
Inspires you the most, and you better say Italian.
Paul is half Italian, for those of you who don't know.
What food inspires me the most? Gosh, as a chef, I have a palate and a taste for everything, I think, and I enjoy a little bit of everything. But yes, I grew up in an Italian family, and I always do tend to lean back toward that direction. It's funny. I've been cooking dinner at home more often than more lately than I have in years. As much as you would like to think that a chef cooks dinner every night at home for their family, we're often so busy that it doesn't happen as often as we'd like. But I find myself regressing and reverting back to some of the things that I ate as a kid growing up. Some fun, simple peasant Italian dishes. Beans and greens and things like that. My kids love all that stuff. It's funny. I stretched out in a different direction. I had some center cut boneless pork loins that I did the other night, and I did something different. I went off on like this curry rub crust and made like a little chutney to go with it, and both of them were looking at me like, is there any lasagna left from last night? So I find myself heading back toward some of the things that inspires me most. In the restaurants over the past several years, we've really focused on natural ingredients, using antibiotic-free, hormone-free meats, things that come from small, sustainable family farms. And so anytime you're using the right ingredients and preparing things freshly and from scratch, that's, I think, what inspires me most as far as food goes. As far as how we're handling the pandemic at this point, we made a decision early on not to continue with revenue. We decided not to do the takeout route and just really hunker down, and we kind of thoroughly cleaned everything, and we doled out a lot of the remaining ingredients, perishable ingredients that we had, to our staff, and encouraged everyone to stay home, to stay safe, and to try to get through it as quickly as we could. What we have been doing as far as feeding folks is 1 day a week. We've been flushing out meals to the local hospitals and the fire stations, the emergency workers. And we partnered with some companies. It's been interesting. One of my clients approached me and said, what can we do? Who can we feed? There's people out there that need to be fed. What can we do? He said, if I help you sponsor something, can we get some meals out? that's kind of how it started. And so we've partnered with several different companies in the area that have helped to sponsor the cost of some of the meals. And we're just, I know what we're going to put out. We can, not have to set up a lot of people. I can have one chef come in and prepare several items, and one or two people at a time working tandemly in different parts of the kitchen, so they're not side by side, keeping them safe. And then we're preparing, like I say, a couple of 200 or 300 meals a day, and pushing those out on a delivery basis and sending them to people that really need it. And we started with the healthcare workers. We think those are the people that are on the front lines, helping people to stay alive and risking their own health to be able to do that. Went on to some first responders, and I've also had a couple other people that approached me and said, there's some feeding kitchens, and there's a program called Second Chance Last Opportunity that has been handing out meals in neighborhoods, and then a new thing that we just came up with today that we're going to do is we're starting to think about how we're going to re-enter. We're starting to get to the point of when it is time to come back, what's it going to look like, and what's going to happen, and what are we going to do different. We're talking about getting together with our management team and with some of our real creative staff members, and starting to brainstorm on potentially some new menu ideas. We want to come back with some fresh ideas and some fresh things happening. So we're going to start to put different things together, and we're also going to talk about what is our services going to look like. Are we going to have to approach things differently? Are we going to be a stronger takeout model? Are people going to want food either delivered or picked up more often than dining in? Are people going to be shy about coming to restaurants and sitting in them? So we're talking about really focusing on some of those type of menus as we get back to things. Even our catering business, there'll be less large-scale sit-down affairs for a little while, and will people be more interested in again, more prepared platters and simpler fare that we can provide for people. So we're going to stay flexible because we don't really know what it's going to look like. We're going to brainstorm different ideas and really see what people want and what people need, and kind of react accordingly to what the opportunities are. But it's going to be a tough restart. It's going to be slow. I wonder, if we'll limit our menus and have smaller menus as we reapproach and get back into things. But all options are on the table. Of course, we're hoping for the doors to open and for everything to be gangbusters again. But we have to face the fact that not only are people going to be more concerned and traveling less, but for our economy here in Florida, we missed the season. It cut us off at the knees right as we were hitting our stride, right as we were in the midst of it. And we're going to come back to the summer months, which is typically our slowest time. So we're going to have to be very careful about what we do and how we do it, and keep an open mind and hope for the best. But we'll come back from it. We will be back at what we do and do well, but it's going to look different, and we've got to all keep an open mind about it.
Thanks, Paul. Michael, let's just segue. We talked a little bit about Paul's favorite food. You've been known as the wine connoisseur of Sarasota for many, many years. Number one, what's your favorite wine? And number two, how important is your wine menu to your overall brand of your organization?
Well, the wine part of our industry has been something that's inspired me food-wise from my early days at the Colony, traveling to Europe to go and learn about it. So, wine is a huge part of our program, and in traveling to those regions around the world to explore those areas, you come back with great ideas all the time, new dishes, new concepts. We're incorporating wine and spirits into the takeout program that we've developed online right now, doing some innovative things with the wine and spirits store, some online virtual tastings, things like that, to keep that going. But yeah, wine and food are the great match. So it's a huge part of our business, always has been, always will be, and it's an inspiration to all of us as we explore new wines from new regions. And you probably know I have quite a passion for South Africa these days, and what a great wine growing region. But on top of that, what an amazing food region with different seafoods that we don't see here. So yeah, wine is still a great passion and a great part of our bigger program.
Do you have a favorite glass of wine? Bottle of wine?
I tend to lean towards what I call the old world style or European wines, and particularly Bordeaux and Burgundy right now. But you know, having all this time at home, we're dipping into the cellar and opening up some great old bottles, and Terry and I are really having fun with that on a couple of nights, and surprising ourselves with things that, oh, I think that one's probably too old, but maybe not. So, and trying things from different regions that have just been waiting. So we've used this as a great excuse to dip into the deeper depths of the cellar.
Well, I'll come over tonight wearing a mask if you need help with that cellar.
I don't think my wife will let you in.
Thank you. Chitin Patel, the owner, general manager of the Holiday Inn Sarasota Airport. Chitin, I guess I just learned something about you from a student. Chitin is on our Tourist Development Council for Manatee County. The question is, how do you balance being part owner of a bank that apparently I did not know, and being a hotelier? And why did you make the switch from being an engineer to becoming a hotelier?
Okay, wow, very good question. Somebody is researching thorough about our business community around here. But actually, I'm a professionally structural engineer, but working with the state of New York, I have found the ceiling as where I can go from here. There was too much competition in engineering business. All the manufacturing and all the bigger stuffs are even going out of the country back those days. I'm talking about back in late 80s, early 90s. And decided to get into the business. At that point, engineering business was tough to go into the engineering business, so decided to go into the hospitality. Started with a small project as owner operator of a small hotel, and came up to the point where I've been in 25 years in the business, enjoying greatly this business. So I would say I love my guests, and I feel that I am born for hospitality. I enjoy interacting with different guests every single day, and great to know about them and their history as well as they know about us. And banking is one of the challenging fields even today. It's in a community banks right now, I cannot go and apply for any loan because they feel that is director being in a devastated situation, even the whole world is in devastated situation. So banking is great, but it should be a lot better or a little bit more relaxed from FDIC, while either SBA and FDIC does not talk hands to hands. Whatever the PPP or EIDL that you take from the SBA, it's not the financial situation of the director itself. It's the business situation in today's condition. So that's how the banking works. So regulations are very tight, and FDIC has not relaxed any regulations for the banking industry. Banking is not even qualifying for the PPP or any kind of other loans from the federal programs. Now, when it comes to the business, like I'm a kind of new compared to all you guys with 20. Is someone speaking?
Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, when I look at the banking industry, or sorry, the business industry, it is, for me, I'm 25 years in the business. I have seen some ups and downs in the business, but this is one of the worst things. And as a lot of others say, that nobody has seen this time in our lifetime, and I totally agree with it. Businesses are significantly down. Simple way to put it is right now, normally what we should be doing as a gross revenue, you generate that in a week. So I would say probably around 15% of a gross revenue that comes to the business. That is a devastated situation. Definitely. Main concern that what government has pinned down is trying to help the small people where they can make their living. That would be the great aspect of how the funds should be funneled down to, not like what happened in the past with 2008 crisis. We don't want to see the only big banks getting the money, and that does not funnel down to small people. So right now, I think this funding, the way they structured it, it's gonna work. The only concern as a business owner, as a lot of employees who is on unemployment today's day and age, they may not go back to work because with federal fundings, and they are getting the federal unemployment for $600 plus $275 total together, like $875 a week. They would have challenging time to convince, or business owners, business managers would have challenging time to convince for them to go back to work. Even businesses getting help in turn of PPP. So unemployment rate probably would not go down unless government stop funding random amount by weekly unemployment claimed by the federal government, $600 a week. They should limit that amount. But other than that, that we all know that this is not the time that we ever kind of dream to even look at this, you know?
Great, thank you, Jiten. Dick Rivera, owner of a great barbecue restaurant in Sarasota. Question from one of the students, what advice would you give a restaurant manager when dealing with difficult employees? There's probably a really short answer to that question, but I'll expand on it a little bit. How do you handle difficult employees, and how do you recruit people in a manner that gives you a best chance to having good employees in your organization?
Can I just take the rest of the panel time here? So first of all, it's great to join. This is the first time I've been on. Fascinated to listen to you all, so thank you.
I'm not getting Dick's audio very well. I don't know if you can get a little closer.
Try it now, Dick.
Here.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite proficient with all this. Can you hear me?
That's a little bit better.
Okay, well, I'll try and lean in a little closer here.
Are you running your phone and your computer simultaneously?
I'm not. I'm just on the computer.
Okay.
That's better, Dick.
Yeah. So, difficult employees, I think difficulties arise when people are not aligned. And so I think that the best way to try and deal with that, I would call it proactively or preemptively, is to make sure that we do a good job of communicating sort of what the expectations are, and then being consistent and applying the standards and dealing with situations as they arise rather than letting them fester. And then if someone really is difficult, I think ultimately, I'm a big fan of Danny Meyer's sort of covenantal relationship. He says that he's very clear about expectations, and he's very clear about what they can expect from him. And they have that agreement up front before they ever start to work. And so we try and do that. We're not 100% on it, I would say, but we generally try and be really clear on what they can expect from us and what we are going to expect from them. And that usually gives you the opportunity to deal with these difficult situations as they arise. And if they don't, it doesn't mean that the person is not a good person and a good worker. It just means maybe they should be a good worker for someone else. So that's kind of blunt, but I think, you have to do your job to make sure that expectations are clear, that you're treating people fairly, and that you're communicating well. And if you are, then there's only so much I think you can do. And then the second question, I think, had to do with how do you find good employees? Was that the question?
Yes, sir.
And I would start by, we look for people that have what we call the hospitality gene, and the people that really enjoy being of service to others. And one way I used to talk about that is if you walk into a restaurant and it's busy, it's full, and people are laughing and they're toasting each other and eating off each other's plate. And if that doesn't put a little zing in your step and a little lift in your heart, then you're in the wrong business. You ought to go do something else, because that's what we do. You know, we host and we entertain and create experiences for people. And so if that's not where your heart is, you should really go do something else, because it's hard work and can sometimes be trying in dealing with people. And so if you don't have the right sort of mindset about hospitality, I think it's going to be very difficult to really be good at what you do. You might be good mechanically, but you won't be a good server, bartender, manager, whatever the case might be. And so we start there, and then we focus on training. And again, the expectations part. And you know, ours is a kind of a low-key restaurant, so what we focus on is points of service, but a really relaxed style. I mean, it's barbecue after all, which is about usually eating with your hands, and in a real convivial kind of community-like environment. So we don't want to be formal, but we do want to be on it. I mean, we want to handle things properly and have the right steps of service. So it's kind of a loose, tight property, I would say, where we want to be tight on the fundamentals and loose in terms of the atmosphere that we create so people can be comfortable. And I think people like working in that environment. So that's kind of what we do. And I think it's worked for us. We've always had the friendly part of it. I think we've had from day one. The steps of service and the standards sometimes we miss. So we got to keep working on that.
Thanks. John Horn, I know we talk a lot about how you motivate your employees. You take them to Orlando once a year. Do you want to just offer a little bit more advice of, really, you've had employees work for you as long as you've probably been owner of the Oyster Bar. Why is that?
Well, just what Dick said. I mean, you've got to find the people that love the industry first. The people that have been in it for a long time, or that just come in and absolutely love what they do. They'll be with you forever, because you've got managers that are supporting them that love what they do. And that, I mean, it breeds that love of the industry. I mean, I had a great uncle that was in the business 1,000 years ago. And he asked me one time, he said, you know, how's the business? I said, I love it. He said, I didn't ask you that. He said, if you're in it, you love it. So, and just like Dick said, I mean, if you love your industry, you'll enjoy it every day you ever work, because it is a tough business. You know, I tease a lot. I say, it's the easiest job in the world. People come in the front door. No one goes to a restaurant for a bad time. They come in the door to have a good time. It's our job to make sure that they can have good food, good service, and a good ambiance. So it's an easy job if you have the right attitude. We take care of our people. We try to listen to them. I've got 4 WhatsApp groups going right now with all my staff from all 4 of the restaurants. And so we're telling them what we're doing, sending them pictures. We have gutted our kitchen in Cortez, completely gutted it. There's not a stick of equipment in it. We're redoing the floor. We're redoing all the walls, new drop ceiling. And I'm sending them pictures so they know that we're putting money back into the plant. We're putting new point of sale machines in all 3 of the stores that are closed right now, with the KDS system in the back. We're sending them pictures of the new setup to all the staff. We want to keep them involved. You know, we're paying them full tilt right now while they're all gone. So I'm hoping my SBA gets approved really quickly to cover some of these it's going to get touchy. But they were blown away when we full tips as well. So, you know, they're just blown away, and that's what you got to do. You got to take care of your staff. You really do.
Great. Dr. Pat, I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then if we have time to open it up to the class, any other questions. But Jason Pabst, Lido Beach manager, what would you tell students that they're in school pursuing the hospitality degree, and a crisis like this comes up, and of course I'm sure they're losing sleep at nighttime? Any advice, you being a manager at a great resort on Lido Key, and then also quickly, you know, what's going on in your mind during this crisis?
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, I would like to just quickly thank this board for extending me the opportunity to be a member of it. So to address the first question, you know, I've been prior to being in the hotel industry, I was in property management, residential property management for quite some time. And then I recently shifted over to the hotel industry about 2 years ago. And so in that time, I've already experienced red tide. And just subjectively speaking, I thought that was the worst possible thing that could happen in our area. So, and it did give me a lot of insights and experience because there are some parallels I think that I can form between that and what's currently going on. But this is obviously on a whole nother level of just the way it's devastated both my hotel and the industry in general in the region. So I will say, just anecdotally speaking, for any students who are concerned that this might be the wrong industry to be going into, or who are concerned that maybe they are not in the correct program at school, I have to attest to the fact that due to my work ethic and due to the fact that I do hold a college degree, I was on the very short list of employees that were retained when the general manager made the decision to start furloughing staff. So I am thankful for that, but it is a very interesting experience nonetheless. And my main priority at this point, besides taking care of our guests, is obviously supporting my staff, staying in constant communication with them. And I think that the second part of the question, what was it? Just if you could.
What's going on in your head right now? And I think you pretty much answered it. They've retained you. Are you sleeping well? Is the unknown kind of eating you up inside a little bit of when this recovery is going to hit?
Well, it is in a way, simply because, you know, speaking with my fellow coworkers and employees, many of them are under the impression that we're just going to, you know, flip a switch and everything will be 100% back to normal at, you know, full operational capacity. I think that's probably a little misguided, and I've been very candid and open with them in discussing that, you know, this will be a slow ramp up. I anticipate the economy and financial implications of this pandemic will definitely force us to be very nimble in adapting to issues and finding solutions going forward.
Great, thanks. Great job, Jason. Richard Wheel, Virginia, you have a comment?
Yeah, turn your microphone on, Virginia. Lower left-hand corner. Lower left, your other left.
There we go. Thank you, Elliot. I just, listening to Jason, doesn't it make you proud of this program? He's so thoughtful. He really understands the nuances and levels, and we're excited to have you on the board, Jason. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Virginia. Richard, are you still on? Richard Wheel?
Wow.
He may have bounced out. I apologize for that, trying to get everybody in. I think what we're going to do, Dr. Pat, unless maybe Richard will pop back on.
Oh, here he is. Richard, are you there? Okay, well, while we're waiting, I'll send him a text. Well, he might have stepped
great. Dr. Pat, Jihan, do you want to field some questions from students that are listening in?
Yeah, and let me just tell you that we've got some great students on here. Hey, Jason, we see your picture. Wonderful. We have Mason, who joined us during the program. Actually, Mason works for Gil at the Weston, or at least he was. I don't know. Are you still doing the night audit, Mason?
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
And you're awake. Thank you. You're a trooper, Mason.
No worries.
And we have Cole, we have Clara, we have Jordan, we have Juan. So if any of you would like to jump in with a question, we would love to have you. And Richard Weil, are you back on yet or not? Okay, students, go ahead. There's Richard. Okay,
I'm back.
Why don't you, yeah, hold it for 1 second.
Mine froze.
Richard, go ahead, Elliot, with Richard.
Hey, Richard, last but not least, you operate a national restaurant consulting firm. And is your group now anticipating trying to basically shift gears to anticipate some very unique questions from the restaurant industry on the recovery side? I'm sure it's not going to be the same normal consultant that you've been offering during your time, but what are you expecting to hear from your clients moving forward?
Thank you. Sorry, Mike, for some reason it froze. So yes, we were in a search and rescue mode for maybe, I think that's what we've coined it as a team for the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're now in a recovery mode, as you put, Elliot. I think for now, we're doing everything pro bono. We're not charging a single client for anything, which is very difficult to do from a economic standpoint for our team. But the restaurant industry, as we know, is week to week. Their capital is certainly limited, and the full service segment has been severely impacted. As we've heard, some have just shuttered for now. We're estimating between 20 and 25% main.
Richard, you're freezing again.
Open. We're here for our clients. We're doing this, and I'm going to read this and then go to the students. In this business, we show love and compassion, laugh as much as possible, dream bigger than ever, be grateful, have fun again, and cheer for our community and industry and country. And that is what we're doing right now as a team with our new white paper that we hope to publish this week as far as a recovery. We're essentially putting out a business model to share on how to recover and how to reopen, and best practices all the way from HR to a business plan, real estate, financials. So I think that sums it up best as to what we're doing as a restaurant consulting team. And I'd be happy to share that with everybody if anybody wants that quote that we came up with as a team, because we think it's very purposeful and very meaningful.
Richard, I'm glad that I had you last. You finished it off perfectly. If you could share that with Dr. Pat, he will get it to the board members. I can't thank you enough. Dr. Pat, are you ready for some student questions before we run?
We are. Students, you want me to pick on you, or does, like I always do, or does somebody want to start off?
I'd love to start off.
Go ahead, Cole.
So, Michael, I actually.
Oh, let's see your handsome face while you're on.
There we go. Okay. So, Michael, I have a question for you. So I just for Easter had a 7-person order for your Michael's at Home. Have you done anything to market that more in the Sarasota area, or are you good with where you're sitting right now with business?
We felt very, very lucky with the response that we've gotten to the Michael's at Home program. And we actually served more meals on Easter Sunday than we would have if we would have been open for brunch, believe it or not. So thank you for your support. We are doing a lot of marketing, a lot of social media, taking advantage of banner ads.
Excuse me, Michael. Rob Avila, please mute your microphone. Thank you.
So it's definitely a time to be marketing if you're open and you're serving and keeping it fresh. We just added a whole new section to the takeout menu today. And, you know, we had a great, it was crazy last week with Passover, lobster pot on Friday, and Easter. But now it's kind of like, you know, for the next probably 6 weeks, we've got to keep it fresh, and we will be doing a lot of marketing. Same thing for the wine and spirits stores, just keeping it in people's minds, trying some new things on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and I'm learning it as quickly as I can. I built the website that we're using for the online ordering. So yeah, I'm very involved in it, and you got to keep it moving. It's just not going to come to you. You got to go get it right now. And I'm so excited to hear from some of these guys about, you know, developing some best practices for reopening. I'm hoping I'm going to get to talk to John about maybe working with the FRLA group that he's talking about too, because between the originals and that group, we have quite a few of the top restaurants in the region, and we need to all be getting on the same page.
Thank you, Michael. More students. We have Mason, we have Clara, We have Jordan. Anybody here have a question that you'd like to ask? Not all at once. We have 8 minutes left.
Pat, I have a question if students do not.
Yeah, and I do too.
I have
Okay.
a question.
Okay, here we go. I hear a female voice.
Me, Jordan. Hi.
Jordan. Hi, Jordan.
Okay, so they say that when this pandemic is over, that everything is going to be different. I guess this is kind of a relative question, but in the different fields of hospitality, like restaurants and hotels, what are the top 3 things that you think are going to change the most? Like what policies and how you manage the takeaways, top 3?
If you'll just say, can I field the question for a second?
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer your question, and someone else will have to answer it from a restaurant or house point of view. But the real question is education change. How are you, the students, going to change? I think you're going to see a lot more online courses at USF using products such as Zoom. It may be asynchronistic type of courses. I know Chian's looking at those type online courses. Real question is, i.e. this fall, are you going to be in the classroom? But I'll let the rest of them talk about the hospitality business and how it might affect them.
Anybody else have a comment? Richard?
I would turn the question around. I mean, how do you feel about online learning? It was already becoming a trend before this COVID virus caught hold. And back to Ken's point, if this fall you don't join with a lot of other students, you're not going to quite get that same energy as we all get when we're in the same room, which probably people in the hospitality field, are alike anyway. So that would be, and then I had a finance point to make at some point.
Jordan, go ahead. You have a response?
Well, I was already on a split schedule. So I did half my classes on campus and half my classes online, which was really, really beneficial for me because I like online classes, just the ability to do them on my own time. But I also like being in the classroom and getting that interaction with my peers and my professors because it helps you stay motivated. So I think a lot of students, and I mean, I have a lot of friends at other different campuses that are really struggling with even coming in and doing the Zoom call, or, or they get it's hard. It's definitely a change, but I think it depends on the student. Like some people are going to continue to want to get their education and want to be present, and other people only went because they had to. They still want the education, but some students really just didn't like going to class. They'd rather just do their stuff at home.
Yeah.
Richard, I can answer one of your questions, by the way, on the hotel side.
Just like what challenges are you already grappling with as an operator? And when this pandemic ends and everything reopens, is there going to be a change?
Absolutely. I think so. And I think, and I'll pick on one of your classmates, Mason, who works for us as a night auditor, but Mason brings so much to the table, and I'm not just calling him out in front of everyone, but I'm just telling him how great of an employee he is and the staff. And Cole, we miss you too, buddy. But at the end of the day, Mason was able to work in night audit and then also work the front desk. We're also going to start having him do several projects throughout the hotel, and being diversified and understanding different departments where sometimes we go into, like, let's say food and beverage, and we only want to be in food and beverage, or you go into the room side, you only want to work on the room side. Currently, right now, everyone's doing everything. So being able to understand different aspects of the business is going to be so critical for your development and for the future of the business as well. And then one last comment, for me, it's just, and I mentioned this earlier, 2 comments actually, just keeping everyone motivated. That's all we can do right now. We know that the market right now, it's quiet and there's not a lot of stuff going on, but keeping everyone motivated because it's going to come back. And when it does, we're going to be stronger than ever. And the other thing I have to say is I was in your shoes. So I was a sophomore when 9/11 happened. And I was a night manager at the Sheraton Fort Lauderdale Beach. Market just absolutely tanked, similar to, not as bad as this, but it was rough. and we all had to take large pay cuts, big layoffs. And I was supposed to be a lawyer. And I got out of, I said, you know what? I fell in love with the business and the hospitality industry because of the camaraderie of everyone wanting to help each other out during that time period. And that's why I said, forget law school. I'm going to be a hotel manager. That's what I want to do. And that's how I really fell in love with the business. Unfortunately, it happened during a rough time period. But for me, that's where it all came together. So just food for thought for you. It's going to get better.
Thank you, Gil. Dick, wow, you were going to say something, and then back to Charles Gifler, who had a finance comment.
All right, so I think you're going to see a few quick components. One, life, health, safety will become a new norm for our industry, and dealing with all operational components, at least until consumer confidence and that new norm of what consumer confidence becomes. And so I think Virginia said it best early on with what is that consumer's preference going to be. So life, health, safety, the consumer confidence. And I also see one of the biggest changes will be the supply chain. The supply chain will dramatically change as it relates to even have enough drivers for the food service and hospitality industry or warehouse people, number of delivery days that we got spoiled of having 5-6 days a week. So I think we're going to see a lot of new norms out there. And those are just a few examples.
Thank you, Dick. Charles, you were going to say something.
Well, Pat, it kind of goes back to your field from your accounting and valuation days. This seems like 1993 in terms of lenders and investors' attitudes about major hospitality in particular. I think the limited service smaller stuff that Ken does is probably going to be less affected. But in terms of getting a new full service hotel off the ground with construction lending and everything else, it's going to be shut down for a while. Most construction lending is going to be shut down for a while, and it's going to take a while to come back. The restaurants, I could see the restaurants coming back much more quickly, and so I was very sorry to hear about the 55 bars and restaurants that John Zaputo was saying we're going to close. But I'm just talking about it from the standpoint of how Wall Street and the money center lenders look at hospitality, and they're very positive about Florida and Sarasota in particular. But it's this kind of a shock to the system is going to take a while to digest. That was my comment. And
all right. Thank you, Charles. We have about 2 minutes left. And first of all, I want to thank Elliot Falcione. Elliot, you really did a superb job with this today. Thank you. And I also want to challenge all of us. The one thing we didn't talk about today was design, believe it or not. But you know what? I think design is going to be an issue when we reopen. Let's take a hotel, for example. What about people getting in elevators? What are they going to feel about that? I think, Dick, you made a very good comment that this ramp up on safety and sanitation is going to take some time. In restaurants, yeah, if we go and reopen, of course, people can't have face masks on while they're eating. So are we going to do half the tables like we were doing before the main part of the virus struck? And if so, how are we going to generate the revenue we need during those hours? And maybe we're looking at different operating models where we might have part of the day. I'm just throwing this out. Part of the day where we can serve more slowly and give them a nice experience that may be a better value proposition, as opposed to that time of the day when we really want to turn those tables over and get them filled as well as with takeouts. It's just some thoughts, and we're going to have another seminar in about another week and a half, 2 weeks, and we'll invite all of you to that, maybe to be talking about more things like this. Now, what I'd like to do is thank the most important people here, and that's our students. I'd like everybody to unmute and to video. If you have a video, I want you to turn it on and unmute. Everybody start unmuting, unmute. And I want to give this panel, oh, good, look at you all. Wonderful, smiling faces. Give everybody a big hand.
Great job.
Students, I will be with you this week on Canvas. Our speaker next week was supposed to be Rick Benninghoven. I don't know, he's up to his neck in alligators right now. So I might have to prevail on one of these other people to come in and join us again next week. We'll see. But we'll have somebody for you, okay? And then that sort of concludes things for us for the semester. I'm your last speaker this year. Thank you, students. Thank you, panel. Thank you, Elliot Falcioni. Thank you, Jihan, for being our technical engineer today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.